The segmented cap split with a noise like cracking ice. A cloud of glittering dust erupted upward, not dust but nanowasps. They poured toward Empress Vale like iron filings to a magnet, their microscopic wings vibrating at a frequency that made teeth ache. Then, the humans stepped into the swarm. If you want a front-row seat to the galaxy's most unpredictable species, join us and never miss a mission. The diagnostic readouts on the atmospheric scrubber had been perfectly normal 40 minutes before the screaming started. Varn tapped his wrench against the housing, wishing the diplomatic summit would end so he could go on break. Varn hated summit days. The concourse was a sea of polished entitlement. Delegates paraded in shimmering liquid fabric and rigid ceremonial armor, projecting an illusion of perfect peace. Varn crouched behind a marble plinth, grease on his lower mandibles, running a diagnostic on a burned-out ventilation panel. The heavy, rhythmic thud of his wrench against the casing was his only defense against the crushing boredom. A sharp buzz, then static. Varn shifted his weight and spotted the human. Humanity was a recent addition to the galactic stage, known mostly for their reckless engineering and refusal to die quietly. This one, a security contractor named Run according to his badge, looked entirely out of place. He was wrestling with a rigid formal collar, his face flushed. He kept muttering under his breath, likely arguing with an unseen AI partner via a bone conduction implant. "I am establishing dominance by losing to fabric," Ren murmured. Varn's auditory slits flared. Humans use humor like a shield. It was a chaotic survival mechanism. The ambient noise abruptly vanished. The station lighting adjusted, warming half a degree to cast a flattering glow over the grand entrance. Empress Vale had arrived. She possessed a quiet, terrifying gravity. Her skin held a pale, luminous tone, and her long ears swept back in elegant, aerodynamic lines, constantly reading the room's acoustics. 6 elite guards moved with her, their matte uniforms threaded with smart fiber armor. Varn kept his head down, focusing on his wrench. Eye contact with Zenith royalty usually ended with a deep background check, but the human didn't look away. Ren's eyes tracked the Empress for only a second before snapping to the periphery. His posture shifted. The awkwardness vanished, replaced by the coiled tension of a predator. Varn followed his line of sight. A worker pushed a service card along the edge of the crowd. The uniform was maintenance gray, but the fabric was too clean. Varn knew every grease-stained tech in Sector 4. He had never seen this male. Worse, the cart's wheels were completely silent. Ren intercepted. He didn't run. He just walked with an absolute, terrifying purpose, cutting through the flow of diplomats. What would you do if a diplomatic assignment turned into a war zone? Why is the human walking toward a locked? The thought died in Varn's head. Ren reached the cart just as it glided past the Royal Vanguard. With casual audacity, the human hooked 2 fingers under the presentation cloth and yanked. The worker froze. Beneath the fabric lay a heavy, compact cylinder. Coiled cables hugged its sides, and a thumbnail-sized emitter plate glowed a toxic, rising red. "That is not a canopy," Ren said. The worker lunged. Ren slammed an open palm onto the cylinder, driving it hard into the cart's chassis. The metal frame screamed under the impact. The worker twisted, and a monomolecular blade slid from his sleeve, a weapon designed to be invisible until it drew blood. He slashed at Ren's throat. The human threw his weight backward, the invisible edge shearing off the top of his hated collar. Varn recognized the sound of a pressurized seal breaking. The segmented cap split, and the cloud of glittering nanowasps erupted upward exactly as he had feared, pouring toward the Empress. But the human was already moving. Ren didn't dodge. He stepped directly into the swarm's path. He slammed an open palm into the thickest cluster, taking the brunt of the microscopic blades, and shoved Empress Vale violently behind the very marble plinth Varn was using for cover. An explosion rocked the concourse. The assassin had fired a structural breach charge to mask his escape. Marble and ceramic shrapnel tore through the air. A jagged piece of plating caught Run in the ribs. He collapsed against the plinth, gasping, blood instantly turning his dark suit a wet, shining black. Empress Vale didn't scream. She tapped her wristband. Her voice cut through the chaos, absolute and cold. Sovereign override. Target the swarms. The decorative ceiling nodes rotated, firing thin beams of coherent light that incinerated the remaining wasps into harmless ash. The concourse went into hard lockdown. Bulkheads slammed shut, sealing the corridors in emergency red light. A royal guard grabbed Varn by his grease-stained collar. The automated doors are jammed. Override them. Now. Varn didn't argue. He gripped his heavy diagnostic wrench and ran ahead of the bleeding human and the terrifying sovereign, bypassing burned-out relays and shorting command panels until they reached the secure medical bay. He forced the glass doors apart, his muscles burning from the exertion. They rushed for an inside. Varn stayed in the corridor, pressing his hands against the transparent partition. The Empress refused to leave the human side, ignoring the panicked shouts of her security detail. The Zenith Station medical bay, designed to project an aura of infallible sterility and absolute calm, was suddenly transformed into a chaotic battleground where the most powerful sovereign in the sector was physically dismantling a piece of automated surgical equipment to save a disposable human guard. Someone had hacked the autodoc unit. Varn watched in horror as a sleek needle arm extended from the hovering machine, aiming directly for the human's chest with a lethal cardiac suppressant. Empress Vale caught the arm barehanded. She ripped the joint backward with a sharp, echoing crack, reached beneath the white casing, and tore out the control core. A perfectly dressed official, the Chancellor's envoy, strode down the corridor, flanked by compromised security guards. Varn pressed himself flat against the cold wall, making himself as small as possible. If the primary locks engage. The thought shattered as the envoy bypassed the damaged doors, raising a compact toxin projector toward the Empress. He was going to finish the assassination himself. Rin forced himself up on one elbow. His hand whipped forward. The broken medical needle arm, torn loose moments ago, flew across the room and struck the envoy's projector. The impact knocked the aim wide. The toxic mist hissed harmlessly against the sterile wall. Royal guards swarmed the envoy, dragging him to the floor in a tangle of limbs and localized gravity clamps. Blood ruined the floor. An hour later, the diagnostic readouts on the atmospheric scrubber were perfectly normal again. Varn sat beside the shattered marble plinth, his wrench resting on his knees. Near his boot lay a broken, blood-stained piece of medical machinery, a silent testament to the day the perfect order finally broke. Stories of survival echo long after the sirens stop. We'll be right here tomorrow with another piece of the universe.